Hey, it's Faye. So this conversation that I want to have today has been sitting heavily on my chest for quite some time now. I still remember talking to my niece in January over a FaceTime call about this whole topic, and it continues to sit heavily on me. We're finally gonna have this talk. I've tried putting it off because I always felt like I was coming from a place of attack. Like I was attacking my own community, especially the men. But with the time from then until now, I feel like my anger finally settled, and given that it's Mental Health Awareness Month, also Asian American Awareness Month, what better time to have this conversation? And just side note, doesn't matter. I was like, should I get ready to make this video in case like Hmong people see it and they're like, oh my god, you look so unpresentable. That literally feeds into this toxic mindset that we have as Hmong women, whatever. So no, I'm not gonna get ready. So welcome to me, just literally living in a shell. So recently I started my Discord server. Listen, Linda, you should join if you want. And to my surprise, a lot of younger Hmong girls talk about topics that kind of hit home. It reminded me of the platform I do have, and why am I not talking more serious matters with the audience I can reach. So as a Hmong woman, I feel the need to open up this discussion. I want to set an example to the people in my community, and am ready to have these hard to have conversations. Regardless if you're Hmong or not, this is a safe place for all girls. Going into this conversation, I am well aware that many of you might feel or get offended, and you are welcome to. I believe that in order to have a productive conversation, we need to be all open ears to both the giving and receiving side. It's a good way to acknowledge, respect, and just understand each other. Hopefully, I feel like it can be an amazing step to move forward in our community, having these hard, deep conversations that we hinder, regardless if that's because we're trying to save face, whether if it's too taboo to have these conversations within our communities or our partners or our parents, or if that's because people can't handle it. They're gonna get infuriated and feel like they need to hold power above one another or be better than one another. Now, I am speaking from a perspective of a girl, a female, growing up Hmong. I know I'm gonna be all over the place, so try to stay with me. Today, I wanted to elaborate on the expected behaviors upon most, if not all, Hmong women, this narrative that has been passed down generation to generation. Basically, the way Hmong women are seen and are told to act within our culture. We as females are expected to take the mental abuse, suck it up, and allow most men to walk all over us. Now, disclaimer, I said most men. I'm not speaking about all Hmong men. I'm not saying that all Hmong men behave this way, but there are still many that are stuck with this old-fashioned, old traditional mentality. If you're a girl, you are well aware of this. And in fact, there are some boys who see this as an issue. And I know there is growth in this community, but there's still so much to work on because this behavior has been bestowed upon little boys to manhood. Also, I do want to include you if you're not Hmong. I'm sure there are cultures that behave with the same mentality, so make sure you let us know in the comments and educate us if this hits home for you too. Women in this community is continuously gaslighted, regardless if that's you or someone you know. We are manipulated to feel little, unimportant, and wrong. Let me just list some historical and cultural aspects from the men to women dynamics so you can kind of see where this mentality stems from back in the day. In our culture, men hold power. Back then, sometimes now, but mostly back then, men participated in the kidnapped wife culture. In fact, they were allowed multiple wives. Women have price tags, females serve men, men own women like property. All forms of domestic abuse is normal. It's abnormal for women to speak up and look down upon. Women must save face at all costs. There is an obvious patriarchy and supremacy of men as head household. Let's say women are to be obedient and to listen. Men have privilege, etc., etc. This is what we as a new generation need to stop feeding into. You know, I saw this very disturbing comment that still triggers me every time I think about it. Here I go. I'm gonna go all over the place, so let's just bear with me. Like I said, girls have a price tag. Boys during marriage have to put a dowry down. This doesn't happen nowadays that much anymore. Some people don't do this anymore. But for some messed up reason, when a boy or a guy pays for a wife, they think they own them like property or like an object. And this comment that surfaced on Facebook, this guy said if he paid for her, then he basically has the right to abuse her at least 3 times. And guess what? It happens. When women are abused, they are to forgive, forget, and be patient, to extend their temper longer. And what happens when a Hmong woman finally has it and has the courage to finally leave that marriage? They are sent home to their parents' home and are given the talk. You have to go back home. Forgive your husband. 我先得 be patient, remain obedient, or else you are seen, oh my gosh, as a divorcee, and you bring shame to you and your family. You are to be looked at as less of a human now. You're filthy, you're shunned. We as girls have been taught to save face our whole lives from little girls until now. Now what happens to the men? They're victimized. They're told to leave the marriage, if not teach her another lesson. They are immediately encouraged to remarry someone else who will listen better, to have someone who's more obedient. And these are the fixated roles throughout our culture, as traditional as it gets. Again, I'm not saying that all Hmong men act like this. Absolutely not. There are amazing men that stand with women in our community. The amount of stories I read, just staying up and reading these stories, this is not being talked enough about. And if it's being talked about, that's as far as it gets. As little girls, we were taught to cook and serve men as they sit around and wait for their hot food on their shiny little plates. Women serve and eat last. They don't even eat at the table. If they do, it's afterwards. And if they don't, they eat standing up, outside, in the garage, maybe in the living room, in the backyard, I don't know. And as they're doing this, they're feeding their children as well. You know, it's funny because as young girls, we always constantly hear our moms say, go check if they need more rice. Go see if the men need more refills. Go bring more soup. Replace the empty bowls with a new plate of food. Make sure the food is still warm and hot. If you're a Hmong girl, you know, you hear this your whole life growing up. Am I wrong? And some girls glamorize this. I can't blame them. This is what we were taught, you know, growing up. So they kind of find the praise rewarding when an older man goes, whose daughter are you? You're so well behaved. I'm gonna make sure my son marries a girl just like you. Perhaps maybe you. You suddenly become the example amongst the girls. You're one up the girls, guys. Haha. I am the chosen example setter. I am now the example amongst us girls. I hope you realize, my guy, that nowadays, we do this because it's the polite and correct way culturally, but we know that it's a messed up system. Hmong women are always seen as weak, and they are mocked whenever they bring up a serious matter, an issue. The belittling of women by this patriarchy and this supremacy of men, I will not participate in. I will not have, nor will I allow this behavior or give them power to enable this behavior. I look back and I'm extremely, truly grateful that I have had a father who never implemented this behavior. He never showed dominance over my mom. If anything, my mom, quote unquote, wore the pants in the relationship. And to the outsiders, they look down on that. They look down upon that. Oh, how could a woman make such decisions? How could a woman be so bossy and dominant above her husband? Oh, she's definitely stepping on her husband's head. What? Now, I'm not saying that I wasn't raised within that lens to please elders, because believe it or not, girls are expected to follow the submissive, compliant role. We're literally born into it, and we're pressured our whole lives to fit into this women under men mold. We have to speak softly and suppress our emotions. We can't act up because that shows the attitude, and then it is brought down upon our mothers as them raising us incorrectly. Yes, incorrectly. The pressure that we have dealt with, especially seeing firsthand through our mothers, has shifted this generation. Hopefully, young girls are making a name for themselves from what I'm seeing. And guess what? Our traditions gatekeep that. In fact, some men gatekeep that, and they don't like seeing women encourage each other to do better, to stray away from this lifestyle, break the narrative, to shift power. They don't like it. Thankfully, the boys in my life are culturally aware of this issue and see the dynamics from men to women power. And that gives me hope. Parents nowadays wouldn't understand or even want to acknowledge the negative impact that this has brought upon us as girls. And some boys, you know, like that pressure that boys do have. But I'm really hopeful that this generation will free young girls and boys from these detrimental teachings. With all of this being said, I think it's only responsible for Hmong women to acknowledge and be aware that Hmong men do have all that pressure to be the protector, bring home the bacon, be head of house, portray this toxic masculinity. Of course we're aware of that. We see that and we witnessed it growing up, but that doesn't mean you can belittle women and make them feel less of. That's why so many young Hmong girls now work their asses off to become independent at a younger age because they don't want to feel owned. They don't want to feel like they need to rely on men to support them while taking in any emotional, mental, and physical abuse. Our traditions have oppressed women, and it's time we take back our power. It's okay to be the black sheep. You do not have to feel denied, nor do you have to feel embarrassed. For what? Striving and wanting a better life? For finding happiness and independence? Being able to provide and take care of your family and build a future without relying on men? I am not just a girl, as that is the only value I bring to the Hmong community. Just a girl. I've worked hard and succeeded. I've made a name for myself. I thrive on independence and I do not need a man's support. And guess what? That's gonna piss some Hmong men off. But I do not condone this toxic upbringing or behavior. I will not participate in this culture, and we need to call out the flaws of the Hmong community without having to feel like we need to save face or be protective of reputation. It doesn't mean that for 1 second our culture or the sacrifices that our parents and grandparents made for us are not valued, acknowledged, are not beautiful and valid. Us Hmong women are so proud of our Hmong culture, but as soon as we voice against and speak up against the traditional rearing, our culture is no longer proud of us. We need to be understanding from one gender role to another, but this is our truth coming from the perspective and experiences of a Hmong girl. I hope you share this video and add on to it because we're not here to gatekeep anyone. This is an open discussion. There's still so much to talk about, but I just wanted to lay out the facts. We shall continue this talk and advocate for Hmong women, stand with and for them, call out the toxic masculinity, and no longer suppress the righteous acts that should have been done earlier. I honestly think and believe that there is room for change. And it starts with this conversation. If you're personally going through it mentally, I hope that you find some peace and comfort within this video because you are not alone. I can guarantee you every Hmong girl, there's not one single Hmong girl that has not experienced this, and we still do till this very day. Talk to us. We're here to support each other. Anyway, I'm gonna leave my social medias available to people who want to talk and have emotional support. My niece is also making a blog soon where she talks about these personal experiences. She's really good with her words and expresses it in amazing writing. I hope you can find comfort in that. So I'm gonna link that below as well. I feel a little better having this off my chest, but I am a little nervous to see the response, especially knowing that Hmong guys are gonna see this video. That makes me anxious. It makes me feel like I'm going against something, but I'm not. We have the right to talk about this. We shouldn't be ashamed of it. We shouldn't feel afraid. We have the right.